Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Bonanza. This week is another double review. Last week we looked at, well not last week but last episode, we looked at Kingdom Cyclonus and Power of the Prime's Tailgate. And following on from that sort of IDW LGBT theme, today we're going to look at Titans Return Chromedome and Titans Return Rewind. Let's get into it. And just as usual, quick housekeeping before we get started. Don't mind my hat, I feel a bit like a kids TV presenter today, but I'm having a bad hair day, so thought I'd try out a new hat. On today's shelf we have the Diaclone lads, not all of them, just the ones that would fit. And then here we have RC, Brainstorm, Highbrow and Hardhead, obviously Chromedome's, what would you say, companions from Headmasters. I don't have a Cerebros because I don't have a Fortress Maximus, but that's the ones that I have so far. Right off the bat then, looking at Chromedome's car mode, I think it's a wonderful car mode. I think for the time, it was quite good. Like a lot of people sort of missed out on this, or maybe like glazed over, because I understand a lot of people had Combiner Wars fatigue, and I know that this mold shares a lot with some of those molds. Although I would argue not that much actually when you get into it. It's a very interesting, like, spacey car, not very Cybertronian, not very earthy, kind of like a nice mix. Not too accurate to his G1 vibe. Like obviously this colouring is different. The G1 one had like sort of thicker arms on the side in that cream colour, but of course that has been addressed in the retro Headmasters release. But for this, the Titans Return version, I think it works a lot more, flows a lot better. Like in these colour schemes, you still have the silver and the red, of course, on the front of the bumper. Lovely blue lights. Nothing on the back, sadly, but we do have moulded detail that could be easily painted with, you know, red and orange to have some tail lights and stuff. Sort of suggestion of vents at the back, or maybe a vented window at the back. I quite like how they have painted this part in the shiny black to match the windows. It works a lot better on this mold than it does on Getaway, who is of course white with red windows, and his matching here isn't quite as good. So overall, in terms of aesthetic, I think it's pretty good. I love the colours. It's quite a rare palette to see brown and cream and red together on a Transformer. It's very 70s or something very sort of homely and 70s about it. In terms of aesthetics then, I quite like it, you know. And of course, because this is a Beesbot Bonanza episode, it means we get to have scores. So for Chromedome, I think, I say quite a fun space car, quite a rare palette. I quite like him. He's not the best car I've ever seen, but very good for being Titans Return. I think only a couple of cars from that line. But I think a score of 8 would be fair, perhaps. For 8 out of 10 to kick us off. I say a fairly fair round number. Might be too generous, might be too harsh. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments, and let's move on. So in terms of alt mode playability, I think Chromedome is quite good. Like any car, nice rolly wheels. Completely blocked it with my finger there, but anyway. Rolly wheels, and he has adorable Titan Master integration. Of course, we can open these window sections, and little Stylor is sitting in there. So yes, more on him later, of course, but I really love, like I've gushed about for all of these Titans Return toys, their little integration is always cute and adorable. Sometimes it's not the best, but this one in particular is rather adorable. Yes, he's sitting in the middle, like a McLaren F1, but anyway, he looks lovely. For that, I would say a 7 out of 10. What it does do is quite good, but it doesn't do much, you know? So getting the trademark whiteboard out, it's not trademark, but anyway. 7 out of 10 for alt mode playability. And let's move on. Moving swiftly on to bot mode presence and aesthetic. I think that Chromedome looks absolutely wonderful. I'll just give you a quick spin around here. Yes, he has the big backpack, but it's actually not too bad. It tidies away quite nicely from behind, at least. I really love the color blocking. I really love these little touches of blue. Like, I always love, like, from the Bionicle days, if anybody remembers Bionicle, I always loved when they would contrast the brown with like a light blue, like in, I think it was Toametru Oniwa, I think it was. The stone one had like blue eyes, and it looked really lovely, like that sort of contrast. So I always love seeing like dashes of light blue, which sort of emulates the headlight colours in the car. It's an interesting shade of brown, quite chocolatey. I like the beige, quite sandy colour. I know the other versions of this mould used a more fleshy tone, I think. I definitely want to get one of those. I'll have to see it in hand to see which one I decide more, or which one I prefer more. But as he is, I think Chromedome is quite lovely. I really love his head sculpt for this. It's a very well done head sculpt. And as with all Titans Return toys, he does have the sort of flat face syndrome of like, but at least for the actual characters who are actual headmasters, it is technically accurate, you know, so like the G1 toy look like that, so I'm not really complaining. It does mean that his ears sort of, it's nice because I think if the Titan Master arms were white, it would make his head look too big, but the way it is, a kind of like trick of the eye, it looks quite nice. Very well painted. I like the orange visor and the blue lenses, but something about it just misses for me as Chromedome, but we'll get more to that when we reach number 10. But as just overall aesthetics for the bot mode, I think he's quite a good, strong looking chap. I quite like the mix between sort of G1 and IDW in terms of the shape. Like, maybe not so much the head. The head is very IDW, obviously, with the sort of stylized horns, but the way that it's sort of a mix between blocky but then also sort of like triangular, like bringing in more sort of geometric shapes, it's very nice overall. I think they did a very good job of it. If you really love G1 Chromedome instead of IDW Chromedome, it's not for you. And if you really love IDW Chromedome over G1 Chromedome, then it's not really for you either. It's kind of like, I say we'll get on to more of this later, but it's kind of like a mix of the two that sort of annoys everybody in a way. Where have we heard that before? More recently, Legacy Bulkhead. Very, very, very dramatic tea about that figure. I quite like how it looks, but I understand why some Prime fans don't. But that's a whole cup of tea for another video. Bringing back the board for the third time in quick succession. That's another 7 out of 10 for me. Now for bot mode playability, this is where Chromedome sort of gets like grandfathered in a little bit, because you know, nowadays with the new figures, we're used to having ankle pivots, we're used to having wrist swivels and waist swivels on all the figures nearly, but Chromedome sort of misses out on those. Obviously he does have a waist swivel for the transformation. He lacks wrist articulation. His elbows are fine, they're a bit high. His elbow rotation, however, is quite high, so when you're trying to do like a hands on the hips pose, it looks a bit his legs are fine. Oops, sometimes that opens instead of moving, but legs generally fine. His feet, some people don't like because they're just these like tiny brown slippers that he has for toes, but I genuinely quite like how his feet work. I'm surprised, like despite the lack of what do you call it, ankle rocking rotation, he does stand quite well, so like I can't complain about that, you know. So pretty good articulation for the time. One thing that does let him down though, is, like I said earlier, I like how the backpack looks aesthetically, however the wheels here get in the way so much. Like when you're trying to pose his arms and stuff, when you're trying to hold his guns, they're just constantly clattering and like lifting this off and stuff. Like I wish, because the way that it folds out in car mode, you would think So it's like this in car mode, but you would think it would flip just back, which would give him a fatter backpack, but I think it would be out of the way more of his arms. I don't know. I suppose it's like a, you win some, you lose some, you know. It's not terrible, but it is something to note. That just slightly gets in the way. I do like, one thing I do like, which is quite rare, is like, because he has the fold away hands, sometimes they're a bit loose on some figures, but on Chromedome they're actually, I don't know if you can hear, they're slightly ratcheted, which means they're nice. You can sort of hold a pose like in between, if that's something you want to do. Just something to note. So overall I think maybe like a 6 out of 10. Like, he's not really that dynamic, but he's not a brick either. Like, he's okay, you know. Is that too harsh? 6? I don't know. We'll get it on our board though. And move on. Point 5, of course, is transformation, and I think Chromedome actually has a wonderful transformation. It's the perfect balance between being simple and easy, yet also engaging enough, because there's so many different like flips and swivels, like the way the legs work, so that they end up with like the flat part at the bottom, but then end up like 180 in 2 dimensions. Is quite fun. The arms are very simple, like they just, you know, they just fold straight and then fold down, so like that's not world changing or anything. And even though I give off a bit about the backpack, I do like how it hinges down out of the way like that. I like how the chest sort of like folds down. But I think above all, like with any of these Titans Return toys, with any headmaster, I think it is sort of the satisfaction of like when you're transforming and you can just be like there's just something cool about that. I don't know. Maybe I am biased because I love the Headmasters and the Titan Masters so much, but for transformation, he's very, very good. Again, not like an amazing puzzle that's going to change your life and teach you a lot, but it's not frustrating, it's fun. So I think for transformation, maybe this will be too kind. I don't know. Like I said, normally I give a score out of 5 for ease and a score out of 5 for fun, and for both it's a 10, or for both it's a 5, which means together it's a 10 for transformation overall. Fiddleability then, like all deluxes, they score very highly on this just because they're like a good size for, you know, like a good size for, I don't know why I'm like crushing him violently, but anyway, that's a whole other thing. He's fun. Not the most fiddleable, perhaps, but he is good. Like, I really like, I will always lift this guy and some of the other Titans Returns toys before some of the newer ones, maybe. I don't really know why. Maybe it's just a sort of nostalgia for it. Maybe they're just more fun. I don't know, but he can't get anything less than max score for fiddleability. Like, he's just a solid, chunky, fun lad, and he's like, no matter what you do with him, it's like, there's no way you could break this, you know. Maybe that's what it is. Like, he's not, well, actually, to be fair, these windows do give me the fear sometimes. Like, it reminds me a lot of Energon Hotshot, who has this sort of design, but like on the front of his shins, and that's, I broke mine as a kid because of that. But these, thankfully, the hinges there are a bit more solid, but time will tell, I suppose. But for now, at least, he's a very fun guy, very fiddleable. 10 out of 10 for fiddleability. Number 7 is interplayability, and this is not Chromedome's best. He's sort of a mixed bag, because obviously you have the, like I said, the Titan Master gimmick, so you can do that, any head works, and because Chromedome's body is quite plain, you do get away with quite a lot of different combinations. You know, so you can make like sort of generic goon soldiers out of him if you don't want this body to be Chromedome. And similarly, because it's quite a plain face, you can use it for anybody. It's quite interesting combination for the two of them. He's quite like Quake in that aspect of being like a really good head and a really good body, but both independently rather than just together. So yeah, however, And I know that I'm just spoiled because like this is the gimmick now, but not, it wasn't in them days. But he doesn't really have that many 5mm ports anywhere. So I'll talk about the guns in a minute, but like he comes with a couple, so he can hold them, or he can put them on his shoulders, which honestly feels like it's more for car mode, because obviously that's the side of the car, that's for storage and stuff. That's it. Nothing on the back, nothing else on the arms, nothing on the legs at all. Like I said, I'm quite biased. It doesn't really matter for his guns or for the other Titan Master guns and stuff, but I'm just looking around here. Like some of the modulators and stuff are quite fun when you can plug them into different toys, and he misses out on that. But again, that's just because of the age. Like this is from Titans Return, this is from 2015-ish, I think. I can't remember when it was. I think it was 2015. I hope, maybe. So we can't blame him for that, but it is something to note, and it is something that I am allowed to mark him down on, because this is my show, and because of that, he's going to get 7 out of 10, because I can't mark him too harshly, but I do need to mark him. It's not so much that I'm marking him harshly, it's more just like I need to leave room above for toys that are better, if that makes sense. So that's how I'm scoring him. I'm definitely going to just give him 7 gets a 7. Moving on to accessories then. Chromedome comes with, of course, his Headmaster unit and 2 guns. This is a red repaint of the Titans Return Blur gun, which is one of my favourites of the line. Like, it's quite good. So I have 4 of these now, actually. I have the silver one that came with Blur, and then I have this red one, and then I have the blue one that comes with Getaway, and then I have the teal one that comes with Brainstorm, who is a more direct repaint of Blur. But anyway, it's quite a good gun. I don't know why I like it so much, it's just very spacey. So he comes with one of the best guns, but then also one of the worst. Because for anybody who's seen my Misfire review, I briefly covered that like Titan Master integration for the guns and stuff. On this, it's not great. I don't know why I don't like it as much. I think it's just because it's not as cool as like his G1 guns. Like I know what they're going for, like with the shape of it and stuff, but it's just so flat. And then it's like if you hold it like that, then it's paper thin, you know. Or else if you hold it like that, then it's like upside down. So then it's kind of, that's the other thing when he's holding it. And I'll just show, it's like, so you either hold it like from the top, like that, or else upside down. Or else you have to hold it sort of upside down, so that the Titan Master can fit in. So we'll just show you that, like the Titan Master can fit in, but then because it's so shallow, it just looks like he's sitting on it rather than in it. I'm not really doing anything, and then like the when he's holding it, it's not the best. It's not the best. I think I would have rather if, like, it worked really well with Blur and it works really well with Brainstorm. Like, if the, you know, for example, if the bonnet of the car came off and then that was like a sled. I know some people give off about them having like a sled or a sidecar mode, but I think it's quite cute. So if this could come off and become like a shield, that would be quite nice, and then that would also lend itself more to sort of 5mm compatibility, like I mentioned before. But as it stands, like I said, one of the best guns, one of the worst guns, and sadly one of the worst Titan Masters too, because in terms of the moulding, I really like this Titan Master. It's the same one that came with Blur. In terms of like the body design, obviously the faceplate's different on them, but the body design, the same one that came with Blur and Brainstorm. And Getaway by extension. I forget about him because he's the same. The colours are fine, but it's the lack of colours. The brown and the red is nice, and like I said, the face is well painted, but there's just nothing there. There's just nothing there at all. Nothing. Like again, like I mentioned in my Misfire review, some of those Titan Masters were quite well painted, and all of these guys, because these 3 are the retro Headmaster releases, these three all have quite well painted headmasters, but Chromedome sadly missing that. So I think because of that, he has to get a 5 out of 10 because they're just not like 5 out of 10. Is that too harsh? I don't know. Like I said, I can only give so many points for this one nice gun alone. And even though it is nice, I have to consider the fact that it is a repaint, or sorry, a recolor of an existing thing. It's not like a unique gun to Chromedome. I don't know. The other thing, sorry, I forgot to show, was you can have it like this. You can plug them on there, which then plugs on top of the car, because there's those two slots that plug on top of the car, and that works alright. That actually looks quite cool. Sort of emulates the G1 vibe. And then you can also have, just quickly, you can also have, when Stylo are sitting in, you can have this blur gun sitting on the top, and that works better because it looks like he's holding it like a little turret. But again, because of the colors, like the reds just blend together and he just kind of looks like nothing, you know. But maybe that's another reason why the swapping the heads is a better idea, because then you can use different colored ones and stuff. But anyway, moving on. Number 9 is value, and like any deluxe, he's quite good. I do like the paint on Chromedome himself, or I should say the Transdactor, or like the body, you know. Like I said, the headmaster could be better, the guns could be better. In terms of value, I think he's quite good, you know, like at the price that these went for at the time, you know, like I said, with this value component, sometimes it gets tricky for like older toys, but I won't assess them on like prices that I got them for in the aftermarket. I will assess them on their RRP of the day, and I think it represented a very good value proposition. And even considering today's aftermarket value, I think Chromedome holds up quite well. He is getting rarer, like, and I don't know why the retro headmaster one is impossible to find, because I would much rather have one of those. Also for comparison's sake, but just because it's slightly better. But anyway, we'll get to that in a minute. So for deluxe, 9 out of 10, is that fair? 9 out of 10 for value. Like I said, he's good. He's not like mind-blowingly like a bargain or anything, you know. He's not going to change your world, but for the price, you could do worse for 20 quid. Far worse. Far worse. Now, the final segment is representation of character, and I think that this is where this figure sort of falls down. I sort of alluded to it earlier. This is a mix that will appeal to some, and some will hate it. I personally quite like it. I always like whenever there's like a new design that mixes the new with the old. I really like when they do that. I find it very fun, because it's not like the only one that's going to exist. It's just the one that they're doing this time. So I quite like him as a figure, but I don't quite like him as Chromedome. What do I mean by that? I think it's because, like, recently I've been watching the G1 cartoon of Headmasters, and I find it really fun. I absolutely love it. It's so daft, it's incredible. And Chromedome especially, like his banter with the rest of the Headmasters and RC, and the other characters, of course. I just couldn't be bothered putting them all out. But this just misses. I think it's honestly the head sculpt. Like I said, the head sculpt is, as a head sculpt, it's great, but it feels sort of impersonal. I think it's because he has a mouth plate and a visor, which for some reason feels like it takes away some personality. You know, like, I love visors and I love mouth plates, but when they're together, it gives a sort of impersonality, perhaps. And it works fine in IDW, like on the comics, because they can have, you know, the art style has like quite a zany way to do that, and like have the different, what would you call it, facial expressions, do you know what I mean, like drawn and coloured. But on the toy, it just kind of looks a bit dull. or like he doesn't look. So like for me, this isn't Chromedome like the leader of the Headmasters. This is, well, sorry, not leader of the Headmasters. Well, he kind of is the leader of Headmasters. He kind of is the leader of Headmasters. Like he doesn't look like, he doesn't scream Autobot hero to me. This toy, he just screams like Autobot soldier, generic con, generic goon, dude, cool guy, but not Chromedome, you know? And even when you take in the IDW flavour, like I said, his head sculpt with the stylized ear parts is definitely IDW. And then when we bring in his partner, or cojunx endura, as they say in IDW, these look great together. Rewind and Chromedome being, of course, a gay couple in the comics, they look great together. Like I said, they're not the most IDW accurate toys, but I don't really mind. Like I said, I love the mixes. We'll get to this guy in a second. Together they look great. And I think that in terms of the Headmasters, like representing them all as a team, I would prefer to have the retro release of this figure to display with them, and then I will keep this one because I still really like this color scheme. I would keep this one to sit with his cojunx endura till the end of time. But I don't know, there's just something. And this isn't me being a G1er. Like I said, like I really love IDW. I love what they do and everything like that. It's not me hating the IDW design. I love the IDW design. It's just the fact that in plastic it doesn't fully feel even like that Chromedome, because like this is, the robot mode is more stocky, like the G1 toy, compared to obviously the Chromedome IDW design is quite a lanky dude. So I don't know, 6 out of 10. That's all we can say. 6 out of 10.